multi-million dollar song before 7 this morning.
Now, a guy called Paul was listening to the show, and Paul is from the Tenancy Skills Institute, and we were talking about the rental crisis. That's all everyone really talks about, is how hard it is to get into a rental home and how many people have had to apply for endless ones, and also, I guess, what's happening if you're getting kicked out. So Paul joins us now. You were listening and you're kind of like, people can actually do things about it if they can't get a place.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of things that people can do if they're struggling to get into a tenancy right now. And there's also things that people can do if they're in a tenancy and that tenancy might be at risk of failing.
Because you guys do a course, and sometimes I'm like, oh, great, a course. People are already struggling. There's no way they're going to sign up for a bloody course, but it's free.
Yeah, so we have a free course funded by the state government. We're close to 20,000 people who've done that training now. And while we know that it is a really tough rental market right now, it does help people with their applications.
So this course essentially is for people who are applying.
Yeah, it's designed for people who are applying, but equally for people who are in there who might not really
know their rights,
know how to manage their tenancy effectively.
Because there's so many rumours about it where you're kind of like, oh, do I just stop paying rent if they're not doing this? Or what are my rights when, you know, the landlord just pops up or whatever it is?
Absolutely. We make bad choices when we get bad advice.
Yeah.
And if we don't go to the right place for advice, oftentimes that advice will be based on an opinion, and that opinion may not align with what the expectations actually are.
But what would you say to, because we're hearing so many people go, I've applied for over 500 rental homes and I can't get one. Why?
Yeah, so look, there's a few things there, and we acknowledge that it is the toughest rental market we've ever seen. I've been working in this space for almost 25 years now. We know that it is hard. But what we also know and what we hear from people who are applying for properties, but also from property managers, is a lot of the applications aren't completed properly. That might mean that people have left information out.
Like I had a dog.
Yeah. or even more simple than that, digital forms, not completing them properly, leaving information off. If there's 50 applications for a property, shortlisting is obviously going to happen based on having correct information in there. So if you've applied for 500 properties, but you haven't had a complete application, then you may not have been successful.
When you're up to your 500, then you're putting the same in, you're like,
Well, I find really, you know, because you work with property managers, they all talk to each other because they get references. So what happens if you're like burnt from one place? Do you just go and buy flowers and see if you can get it like eliminated from your record? Because that seems to stay with you.
Yeah, look, I guess what I'd give advice to people first is if things are starting to go wrong, try to end your tenancy in the best way possible.
Right.
But if you do have a bad history and you've done something to, you know, to remedy that, so you've done some education, you've worked on what the issues were, be upfront about it.
Where would you say the power lies? Is it with the landlords or with the tenants, or is it equal?
Look, at the moment, it would be hard to say that, you know, it's not a landlord favoured market because there's so much demand. What we do find, though, through our work, and we not only do education, but we do support for people experiencing homelessness and housing stress as well. And what we would find is that majority of landlords and majority of property managers are really compassionate and do want to help, but there are some out there that don't. So, and they're the ones that I think generally will make it to the media. We always hear the bad stories. We never hear the good stories or the average unremarkable stories.
Like the woman in Sydney who was advertising her balcony for someone who likes to wake up with nature.
Well, yeah, because you click on it, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to get better?
I think we've got quite a bit longer now because, you know, we need the housing stock.
Yeah.
So until we get enough housing stock, I think this is going to be our normal for quite some time. What I'd say to people, though, is for every property that's up for rent, if there's 50 people applying, there's 49 that get rejected from that property. So try not to take that personally and try and understand, you know, maybe what it is that's caused that application not to go through.
Yeah.
Well, if people are interested in the course, where can they apply and get the information to get involved?
Yeah, so people can go onto our website, tenancyskills.com.au. All the information's there. It's either available in person or online.
Great. Thank you for coming in, mate. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Carrie and Tommy. Because this little...